Travis Wayne Goodsell. The Russians are coming. The Russians are coming. I told you guys, you don't do business with corrupt organizations. Unless you are a corrupt organization, then you think you have no fear. Philip Y. Freeberg, who's a PhD student at the Moscow State University, adjunct. He's written an article that he posted on academia.edu, Freemasonry and Mormonism, the Ignored History. He's attempting to go over a topic which he thinks nobody knows about, because you're not listening to my videos, you're not buying my books, even the Kindle, which is, I don't know, I think they raised the price to $2 on you. But yeah, I've been telling you all about it. I'm Mormon, born and raised, and I'm still able to be objective and unbiased with the information I give and the method that I give it. He claims to be unbiased. However, his upload does not show it, as I've only been reading over part of it. But this is what I was warning you guys about. If you're not going to learn the truth from me, then you're going to have to be faced with lies that are going to come out eventually. And then it'll force you as Mormons to look for somebody to step up and tell the truth. That's what happened in 1900, the year. Solomon Spaulding, Solomon Spaulding, wasn't it? He was a Baptist minister here in Utah. Came out with a book or a pamphlet titled "Joseph Smith as Translator," and just humiliated the Mormon Church. And the church had just gotten through the Edmunds-Tucker Act. They were beaten, whipped, and deep in debt. Disincorporated still. Reed Smoot hearings were, when did they take place? I think they were still about to take place. So the church was really getting slammed. And in the midst of it, this Baptist preacher in Utah comes out with a publication destroying Joseph Smith as a translator. So, is it easily accessible? Is that it? No. Where'd you go? Where'd you go? Where did you jump from? Where'd you go? Cotton Eye Joe. Oh, down there it is. Down here in the bottom. Are you gonna collapse on me? Joseph Smith as Translator by R.C. Webb, which is his pseudonym, not his real name, and was able to get Heber J. Grant in 1936. That's how long it took somebody to step forward and help the church, who was in desperate need of help. 36 years later, this guy does something. Whereas Heber J. Grant and the previous one did nothing. They were helpless to Solomon Spaulding's book. And and in here there's been a lot of fun stuff. It's just wrong. It's got some cool pictures, cuneiform, Egyptian. Does the alphabet. Oh, isn't that great? The Egyptians didn't have an alphabet. It was the Greeks. And he's got some cuneiform or hieratic, so that you can see which Egyptian hieroglyphs go with the hieratic, which was very helpful in my Paleo-Hebrew decipherment. But even shows Akhenaten. But he tries to help the church show that Joseph Smith did seem to know something. Still failed. But it was good enough for Heber J. Grant. And Heber J. Grant paid for it through Deseret Company. Is that what it says? Deseret News Press, Salt Lake City, Utah. R.C. Webb was well known for taking lost causes. But you willing to wait 36 years, Mormons, before you guys pay attention to my work? Seriously? Are you hateful that much of me and what I've been talking to you about? Because otherwise, you're going to have to go up against Russians now. Because this guy from Russia, all Russia is going to be listening to his stuff. The church just sent 2 new mission presidents to Russia. We don't even have a church in Russia anymore. It's gone. The numbers for Russia are gone. Deleted from the membership record. The total stats we have exclude Russia. So if we still have Mormons, they're not being counted. Which is why I suspect the numbers of the church had fallen, is because the church stopped recording Russia. So there's a little cover-up going on here, as I've been pointing out to you. And so what he's doing is doing an article on Freemasonry and Mormonism, the ignored history. And if you didn't think that there was a connection of cover-up and conspiracy, like translation, you got another thing coming. I'll just read to you his opening statement here. Today, few members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and perhaps none of the converts to its doctrines, know the exact nature of Joseph Smith Jr. and the early church involvement with Freemasonry. It is an issue wrapped in legends, opinions, gossips, and dark clouds. See what he's doing? Mormon and anti-Mormon publications alike present 2 extremes of the Mormon Masonic history, the subject where an inexperienced student of history is likely to get lost in a vain effort to find objectivity and compromise. You never need to compromise. Win-win. He's referring to giving up incorrect beliefs and saying, okay, I submit that there is probably something else that I need to believe in. And yet, this complicated issue is a very important milestone of Mormon history that is worth exploring. Yes, I did it when I studied church history. Because I recognized, hey, wait a minute, there's connections to Freemasonry before 1842? Isn't that interesting? Yes, it is. And I'm willing to bet he doesn't cover it. I've downloaded his PDF, and I'm going over it with you now. But I won't be going over the whole thing for you. Read Durham. See? All Mormons can get the church in trouble if you don't know what you're talking about. Even if you think you're protecting the church, as Reed Durham thinks he's doing, you're gonna get the church in trouble. Just as murdering Joseph Smith so that you can't explain how he translated. The former president of Mormon History Association and LDS Institute of Religion at the University of Utah writes that in the study of Masonry lies a pivotal key to further understanding Joseph Smith and the church. And does he really work at the University of Utah? Let's do a quick check. Read Durham. 18 History of the LDS Movement. So isn't he dead now? Go away. Close. Begging me for money. Alright. Born 1830 or 1930? Are you sure you don't know his month and day? Okay, I'm going to have to pause here in just a second. Controversial speech in 74 about Freemasonry and the Mormon movement. Ooh. Wow. Controversy. But notice it's in 74. When did the church get the papyra back? 68? Huh. Okay. He was born in Long Beach, California. So no, he does not. If you're familiar with my playlist, Who is the Man? More Man Like Moses. He doesn't meet the requirements, so it's not him. I'm pretty sure he should be dead. They say he's not dead yet. And they have to footnote his date. Use of choral reading in the various programs of the church. Huh? Are you kidding me? Nobody from his family could say, hey, he was born here on this date. Put it in. Let's see. Yeah, sure enough. Professor at the University of Utah in Logan, Utah. Oh, Utah State University, not University of Utah. So what does he say again? University of Utah. Oops. Yeah, see? It's these little details. Because the Wikipedia page says Utah State University. That's Logan. That's not Salt Lake City's University of Utah. Big difference, and if you don't know about the difference, you're likely to mess up as this Russian has done. So you see, even he makes mistakes out of ignorance. You have to know everything about what you say, because even as I was doing my research on church history, I'd come across something and I'm like, okay, I'm going to need to study what that is. And so I'd go and click to study what that is. And then, now I got to study what that is. Then another one, and I may have 2 or 3 things that I now have to study. And so I've got several tabs across my screen trying to go back and forth, trying to make sure that I get all the information to have a full understanding of the original thing that was discussed. That's how complicated history is. And as I've recognized, the majority that I've seen and read do it wrong. And so here again, we have a Russian who's doing it wrong. Because he's saying that Reed Durham is from the University of Utah. Not germane to the point of his topic, though. It's insignificant. But it sends us a red flag that he's making a mistake in this area. Is he then making mistakes like that in his document? And so that's what we now have to look for, is that when he makes a claim, we have to check for references, because we now know we can't fully trust him with what he says. Let's see. He tries to claim that Masonry lies a pivotal key to further understanding Joseph Smith and the Church. This paper will try to shed some light upon the 3 issues that will be of interest to members of the Church, LDS Church, and general public. So again, Mormons, if you think you can just ignore this and ignore my video warning you about you're gonna be faced with this situation. And you don't want somebody who's not Mormon thinking they're going to try to defend the church 36 years later. Because the general public, they're going to eat it up. Anything and everything. They're going to believe it all. And they're going to spread it. And just like the telephone game, they're going to change it from transmission to transmission to transmission. So that, as he says, legends, opinions, gossips, and dark clouds will emerge just from his document alone, let alone what's already been out there that I had to then do my own research on. That's why I don't use these other authors as primary sources to go to. I went to Joseph Smith's authoritative words in our canon and went from there. He says his parents were named Joseph Smith Sr. and Lucy Mack. That's how I started. I don't go into anybody else. I look for primary source information. He says they were in Vermont. He doesn't say where in Vermont. I think he does, actually. And so, Sharon, Windsor County, Vermont. And so I had to go to a map and confirm the location of Sharon, Windsor County, Vermont. They have it. And as other people show up, hey, Brigham Young's in Vermont. Where is he? Oh, he's way down here. Oliver Cowdery and his family, they're in Vermont. Where are they? Oh, they're over here. Oh, right by the New Israelites, where the Congregationalist Church was also. Then you have to they had wagons. They didn't have, I just got the mail. Is that the mail again? Or is that from yesterday's mail? Can't trust the mail anymore these days now that Trump put in a new Postmaster General. Specifically to tamper with our November election. Remember when I told you guys last year, I believe it was last year, and even before that, for the midterms even, I was saying, go paper ballot. Do it. Do it now. Let your vote count. How many people listen to me? How many people are now doing it, now that it's crunch time? You've got to be prepared. Alright, so First, so the three things he talks about. First, the exact nature of the Masonic fraternity. Yes, because as I learned, there were two main ones in America. Second, the precise characteristics of Mormon, Joseph Smith Jr., involvement, and he's showing his Russian there. He didn't put of Mormons, of the Mormon, Joseph Smith Jr.'s involvement. And it's the manner of speech as you're trying to translate from Russian to English. So you can see that in here, which you need to understand why their grammatics is so off from what we use here in America as English speakers. It's because he's got Russian on the brain with Freemason. And third, unbiased evaluation of the impact of that relationship. So he's got a good basis for a paper here, but we've already identified one of his problems, and that's how they get you. That's how Russia gets us. They've always been our enemy, and that's what you need to understand. He's Russian. He's not Mormon friendly. He's an outsider looking in with an unbiased perspective as a historian doing a PhD paper from Moscow University, as he claims. And yeah, there could be a lot of good stuff in there, but you got to be careful. The granddaddy of all of them all, Freemasonry. Official history. It was not until June 24th, 1717 AD, that several Masonic lodges, which had already existed for several centuries in complete secrecy for fear of persecution, united in Goose and Gridiron Tavern to form the Grand Lodge of England. No reference. I would like to know that reference. He's assuming, I'm therefore assuming, that he thinks that this is general knowledge that everybody knows. Unfortunately, in this particular instance, you have to reference, and he doesn't. So there's the second problem. Is he claims he's unbiased. He claims he's being objective, but he's making several mistakes in doing a paper as a PhD student. I am a PhD student, Moscow State University adjunct, Philip Y. Freeberg. So just because they got the titles does not mean they have the credentials. That's why I don't trust when people say, oh, he's been peer reviewed. Yes, or what? It means that biased people have approved his biased paper. That's all that means. So, give me some real credentials. He deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. He deciphered Egyptian petroglyphs. You know, that's credentials. Fruit, not titles. Titles are not credentials. Fruit is credentials. And we'll end with that.